Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. When I was a kid, I used to be a big fan of Jeopardy, and this was long before the days of Ken Jennings. There used to be a limit that you could only be on the show 5 times, and you can only imagine how many Ken Jennings we missed out on in times past because of that limit. And it dawned on me that every night I would be watching Jeopardy. Why haven't they had two contestants with the same first name? And then it occurred to me it'd be way too confusing. And similarly on other game shows, reality TV shows, very seldom, I guess it has happened on Survivor, very seldom do you see on Survivor that you have two contestants with the same first name, right? I guess we could take a little statistical modeling, right? Take a look at the distribution of first names in the United States and see how likely it is if you pick 20 people that you'll have two people with the same first names, and see if Survivor has followed that model, right? I bet they would. You could make a case that they do discriminate by name, right? And because I was such a big fan of Survivor, I really cursed that I had a very common name. And I was in eighth grade at the time, and I decided to ask all my friends to call me by strange names. I can't remember what I used, but it was kind of funny. And when I explained, it was because I wanted to get on Survivor, and I didn't want to be cursed by having such a common name. Everybody laughed. But I got to do that distribution. I'm sure you could download a chart. Although you might want to break it into different age brackets, right? Because the people who would apply to go on Survivor, you're not going to get very many elderly people, and you have to be 18 to apply, and you're not going to get too many people close to 18 either, right? So I wonder how close they follow, if they have any name discrimination involved, right? Now, I also had a big problem because of how common my last name is. When I was going to college, every time I would pick up my transcripts, they would have other people's classes involved in them. And one time, when I went to pick up my transcript, somebody had their classes in my transcript, and they had gotten A's on them, so I pretended not to see them, and just allowed it to slide. And so, but I was teaching at a different school, Washington Technology University, when I was living in Wallace, Idaho, and working remotely. I thought my checks were arriving at my mailbox. I was renting a mailbox in Seattle, and I decided to just keep them there because I needed to save up some money for something. When I went home, I discovered the checks weren't there, and I discovered that WTU had accidentally paid a colleague of mine who had the same last name. And my boss was so upset that I hadn't notified him for a number of months before they realized they were paying the wrong person. And I'm not sure if they ever got the money back. So I might have cost WTU a few $1,000s because of that. So my boss was so upset that I hadn't notified. It might have hurt me too, because a lot of times I behave like this. People think, oh, I don't need the money as much as I do. And, I used to do that with private tutoring clients. They would pay me with a check, and I would hold on to the check instead of depositing it, because when money goes into my bank account, it has a tendency to just dissolve it there, right? If I hold on to those checks, and then I see a good deal on Bismuth that I can buy a ton for like $6,000, oh, let's go cash all those checks and buy it, right? It doesn't work that way if I deposit it, right? So that's kind of weird, right? Anyway, so another reason for me to want to change my name someday, especially to change my name to Dislike, because nobody in the world is going to be named Dislike, right? I'll never have my checks go into the wrong place or get somebody else's credit on my credit report or anything like that, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.